Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our recording of how Solver and Binary Stream are planning to work together with our subscription billing suite into Solver's software as a service reporting packages. My name is Nick Petrolini. I work with Binary Stream as a solution consultant, specifically focused on our subscription billing platform. And with me, I have Stephanie Johnstone.
Hi, yes. So my name is Stephanie Johnstone and I'm with Solver. I run our solutions engineering team, and in my role, I help people evaluate Solver so they can see how it can give them better visibility into their performance to accelerate better decision making.
So for today's agenda, we'll explain what our partnership between Binary Stream and Solver looks like today, followed by an overview of the solution that we're partnering up to ultimately offer our SaaS clients in the marketplace. We'll do a brief, explanation of what that architecture looks like behind that solution and the partnership as well, followed again by a brief demo or high-level demo of the functionality you should expect to see in both solutions and how they can work together to ultimately provide more insights and streamline your billing processes as you go through your day-to-day billing practices. And then we'll follow that up with a quick benefits summary, followed by some leave behind resources that you can feel free to explore on your own time if you should feel the need to explore the solution further. So a quick introduction of Binary Stream and Solver. We've both been in the Microsoft channel for many, many years, over 25 years of experience between us. And you can find a variety of our solutions already on Microsoft's App Source as well as the Azure Marketplace. We have customers across the globe spanning 25 countries currently and continuously growing. You can see that 5,000 plus customers globally between the two of us. So we're really well established in the Microsoft channel and have very mature products that have been around for many, many years. We're both Microsoft Gold partners as well. So we're continuously evolving our relationship with Microsoft to ensure that our solutions are fully compatible with any updates or any changes to the Business Central platform that take place in the future. Now, getting into the first part of our solution today is the subscription billing suite, which is really a billing platform within your ERP platform itself. So within Business Central, what you can expect is a fully embedded system which gives you access to enable what are called billing schedules, or really they just reflect as your contracts with each of your individual customers. And what it can provide is a streamlined way of setting those billing schedules up so that you can automate your month to month or year to year or even quarter to quarter billing practices, including some advanced pricing models such as tier-based pricing or even usage and consumption-based pricing. And then furthermore to that, the revenue recognition on any prepaid amounts or even unbilled revenue is also accommodated for so that you can ensure GAAP compliance for your revenue recognition compliance standards. Now, what that looks like from an architecture standpoint is what you see here. What I really want to point out here is that even though everything is embedded within the ERP platform from a billing perspective here, you can also have direct inputs from other data sources such as a CRM system, Salesforce, CE, any of those that you see on the left, and many more beyond that as well. But once that data is actually imported into Business Central, at that point, your contract gets set up and gives you access to run those batches of invoices with all that same data and the same detail of those original contracts so that you're not having to manually create those invoices each and every billing period from scratch and instead have that generated for you based on the original information with, of course, also the ability to adjust that as changes to the agreement are made or potential upgrades or what have you there. Now you'll see as we flow through that diagram, then we get into your recognition journal entries as well as any entries into your GL, which then spits into the reporting function of Solver, which I'll pass things over to Stephanie to explore a little further.
So a little bit more about Solver. Solver is a complete corporate performance management solution. And what that means is we have all of the tools that you need to monitor and measure the performance of your business. So in this case, you can see that broken out into reporting. That's your financial and operational reporting. That's planning, your budgeting and forecasting and long-term planning, as well as more in-depth analysis. What Solver does is we consolidate all of the data sources across your organization into one single solution, so you have organization-wide visibility. Here in the architecture diagram, you can see up top we have our users. They're accessing Solver via our secure web portal, which is fully browser-based. Within that Solver portal, they're going to have access to all of their reporting tools, everything associated with budgeting, forecasting, as well as analysis, so KPIs and dashboards. Within Solver, you can see down below that we're connecting to a number of those critical data sources. So that includes Dynamics 365 Business Central, where we have a patented quick start deployment solution that gets you up and running on the very first day. That also includes a packaged SaaS industry specific solution that includes your subscription information from binary streams. So all of that critical information that we're going to take a look at here in more depth, we're going to be able to report off of that and plan off of that as well. And also any other data sources that may be important for those reports, operational, financial, as well as for better prediction. So that's what we do here at Solver.
All right, so now let's get into an actual demo of both of our solutions here. So first we'll start with Binary Streams Subscriptions Billing Suite and pass things through to the reporting package from Solver. So here you see in front of you a Business Central home screen, as probably many of you are familiar with or have explored based on your interest in a new ERP platform, perhaps. And with Binary Streams Subscription Billing Suite, every screen available in the solution is directly embedded within the ERP platform as an extension, again, out of the AppSource marketplace. Now, specifically, we'll be focusing on what it looks like to set up one of our billing schedules, which again can simply be thought of as each of your contracts with your customers here. So you can have as many of these open as you'd like, but ultimately this is going to be the basis of what your invoices get generated from based on that recurring revenue aspect, depending on the different services that are applied in each of these billing schedules. So if I click into one here, one that I already have partially set up for us, you can see a variety of information that you would expect on a contract here in the header. You can see, of course, who your customer is, all of their contact information as well, depending on the customer card in Business Central. And then you get into what that length of contract is, including what that start date and end date are. And finally, the frequency at which you're expecting to bill this client. So in our case, we have everything you see in front of you from daily down to annually, as well as we can apply one-time items to a specific contract as well. And just because you're setting this up to generate an invoice each month, as an example, doesn't mean that each and every item or each and every service that's attached to this contract has to abide by that same billing frequency. You can mix and match annually billed items, monthly billed items, even daily billed items, all on the same billing schedule. So in my case, I have this set up as monthly, basically just meaning that an invoice is going to be generated each month. However, you'll notice as I get down to my items here, I actually have an annual support item, which of course is only going to be billed once every 12 months. And so to further explain what options we have on the item specific fields here, you'll see, kind of the same information as I scroll through here. Billing type, we can handle standard billings, which, as you would expect, are standard. It's just your quantity times your unit price, and it's going to be that flat rate as you go through each period of the billing schedule. Now, again, if something changes, let's say 6 months into the contract, you can adjust that quantity as needed. Or if there's a price escalation or discount associated to it, you can also adjust that accordingly. We also have the ability to have usage-based items, whereby there's some sort of consumption metric that's actually dictating what's being billed each period. So something like utilities, meters, even some sort of consumption metric on a license where maybe it's billed based on the amount of reports run, for example. You can have that as well incorporated into this same billing schedule. And finally, we have milestone, where if you're doing projects which require different billing periods based on milestones hit, you can also have those milestones identified in the contract and then be able to control when that gets billed based on the completion of each milestone. And what that looks like from a back-end perspective for our standard-based billing for our licenses here. When I go into my detail of this line, we'll see, based on the parameters of my billing schedule, in my case, the 2-year schedule at a monthly billing frequency, you'll see each of those months scheduled and what that invoiceable amount is for each of those periods held here for your reference. Now, this is going to act as the map for our solution to generate each of these invoices as we get to the period that the amount should be invoiced. So for example, for my first month here, it says there's $500 owed by the customer, but at this point, there's nothing been posted until I actually run the invoice, at which point we will also see reference to that open or posted sales document here. And out of our billing schedule, we are just creating standard Business Central sales invoices. So there's no need to maintain a separate source of records or anything like that. Just some additional configuration that would be done during the implementation. But really, you're not having to actively manage those lists of records there. And as I mentioned, I also have an annual support item here. And that's going to be much more simple if we go to the billing schedule detail. But where this item gets a little more complex is that it's a prepaid annual service. So the accountants who are watching probably already know that there needs to be some sort of revenue recognition rules attached to that to ensure that the revenue is being recognized in the appropriate periods that we're providing the service. And so we're going to get into that as we go through the invoicing, at which point the solution will recognize that that needs to be a deferred item and generate what's called a deferral schedule in Business Central that can generate the deferral or the revenue recognition journal entries for you as well. Now, if we go into the invoicing process, follow that through, you'll see it brings me to this invoice creator screen. Now, this can be done either individually, contract by contract, but it can, of course, also be done as a batch across all of your contracts at one time. And what that looks like mechanically is, once I pick what my cutoff date, so for me, if I'm billing everything up to March 1st, that's today's date, I'll see all of the items for this billing schedule that are ready to be billed. So it's as simple as selecting all. I can post, or I can just create a open sales invoice as well. And once posted, it will generate my deferral schedule for me as well. And so now that that's posted, we can go ahead and go back to our billing schedule and back to our details of each of these lines and see a reference to that posted sales document here. where we can click into that if we need to look for historical records for audit purposes, perhaps, or anything like that. Now, finally, we'll look at that deferral schedule that was created for us. So if I look through, or if I search for my deferral schedules screen, we'll see if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, we'll see our annual support item identified here. And in this deferral schedule, you can see all of the accounts that are posted to for the initial deferral to be posted, as well as the accounts to be posted to as we recognize this revenue over the year period. Now, as we go down into the lines of the deferral template, we'll see each of the periods of the service and each of the amounts of revenue to recognize in each of those periods, with the ability to quickly recognize that revenue based on a specified cutoff date. So if I'm running my month-end procedures for March 2024, I can identify that I want everything recognized up to that specified date and click recognize, at which point it's going to run that journal entry for me. And I can do that as a batch across all of my deferral schedules at one time as well, and see reference to the generated journal entry with reference to each of the accounts that are posted to as well. Where we really need to see that benefit come through is through a comprehensive reporting package. So I'll pass things back to Stephanie to go through Solver's SaaS reporting package now.
Thank you, Nick. So now what I'm going to do is what you see in front of you is the Solver web portal that I mentioned in the architecture diagram. And this is where we can access those 130 plus SaaS industry templates that we have in our package, which is going to give us visibility into what Nick just showed us with our contracts, our subscriptions, our deferrals, and our revenue recognition. And we're going to take a look at that, a little bit of reporting, just a couple examples, and then one example when it comes to prediction and being forward-looking when we're budgeting. So for that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by going to my report templates within Solver. This is the library of all of the reports that I have access to within the solution. So you're going to see a number of those templates that I referenced. Now, in this case, let's imagine that I'm a sales manager and I want to take a look at how we're performing in the current period and what's posted, what contracts have posted here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the category of reports I want to look at. In this case, let's look at our subscription reports. And let's take a look at this first one here, which is a subscription revenue by order type report. Now, any report that we're running here in Solver, we can make some selections here at runtime to choose maybe a version of the budget we want to see, what company or entity we want to run this for. And then we can also choose the period that we'd like to see displayed in this report. And Nick, I noticed when you pulled up your screen, you had some examples there, and I saw some in January. So I'm going to have this set to January of 2024 so we can look at some examples that align with some of what you had shown there earlier. And I'm going to put this into full screen view so we can get a little bit of a better look at this. Now, here you can see we have some metrics here showing us where we're at currently in January of 2024 in the current year versus last year. We also have that year to date, as well as compared to the full year last year. We can see those trends. And then over here on the right-hand side, we can see that broken down by order type, whether that's new, that's renewal, that's an add-on. Now, what I can also do is when I'm looking at this, if I want to analyze and get deeper visibility, I can choose any of these values, right-click, and I can drill down into the underlying transactions. So those would be the transaction that just posted within the binary stream subscription billing suite. So let's go in here into our deferred revenue and expenses. So these would be the transactions that have posted so far in the current period. I can see the individual customers here, and I'm going to select one. So let's go ahead and let's pick this one up on top, A Datum Corporation, if I just want to maybe hone in on just one here. And as I scroll over to the right, I can see a lot of details specific to this customer. I can see the salesperson, I can see the recognized order amount, I can see the GL accounts associated with the revenue deferrals, I can see the balance sheet side, I can see the P&L side, I can see how long the contract is for, when it started, the billing frequency. All of that information is available to me when I drill down from within Solver if I want to complete my analysis and see exactly what's going on and exactly what those numbers are made up of. So that's a good example of how you can really get down into the details from within these Solver reports to analyze those transactions, starting at sort of a mid-level view and then getting all the way into detail. Now from there, if I wanted to run an additional report, I have numerous reports here you can see that are available to me. But let's take a look at a little bit of a higher level view, because this is something that a lot of executives specifically like to see. They like to see that 30,000-foot view of the organization, how we're performing across all of those critical metrics so that they can maybe isolate areas that need improvement or adjust strategy accordingly. So let's take a look here at an executive dashboard with some of our SaaS KPIs that again would be coming in from that same information that we just looked at with Nick. So we can choose the period that we want to view. And I'll put this one also into full screen so that we can take a good look at this. Now, this particular KPI report, what this does really nicely is with the use of the red and green, it allows us to quickly see at a glance where we're performing well against plan and where we might be underperforming. So as an executive, if I'm looking at this, one thing that might catch my eye is over here, I can see when it comes to churn, which we know is very, very critical to us in the SaaS industry, that we're underperforming here, that our churn is higher than we might like. So this would give me as an executive some insight into maybe some areas that we need to look into and address within the company. So that's a good example of taking a look at things from a very high level view to see that broader outlook of performance. So both of those examples, so we looked at two different reports, and we could, of course, go beyond that and look at standard things like financial statements and other types of reports. But what I want to do is, since both of these were comparing how we're performing in the moment, now I want to take that and give a forward-looking outlook. So what about if we want to take this key information and look forward when it comes to budgeting? So I'm going to now go over here into Solver Planning, where I can do just that and go to my input templates. Now my input templates, this allows me to adjust my budget, my forecast, my long-term strategic plan. But what we want to do in this example is we're going to go in and look at our sales budget by headcount, because this is two different critical areas. This is going to give us our sales budget target numbers, and then also let us know from a staffing perspective what it's going to take to achieve those specific goals. So here, just like my reports, I have the ability to make some selections of what I want to see in this report. I can choose a version of the budget if we're doing multiple versions here, maybe a first pass, an updated version, or we want to reforecast throughout the year to model different outcomes. I can pick and choose which one I'm going to be using at that time. And then I'm also going to choose the last closed period, because we're going to have actuals to date, and then we're going to use that to project out into the future. So let's put this one also back into that full screen view so we can see a little bit better here. Now on the left-hand side, we have a few charts that are going to help us spot some of these trends, and we can look at those. But first, I want to adjust some of the drivers with our budget here. So let's start at the top. At the very top here for 2023 through our last close period, which may be around the time, if you're on a calendar year, you might be budgeting around September. So that could be our last close period. We have all of our new sales. And then where you see these green cells, that means we can make adjustments. So for October, November, December, we have forecasted numbers. But if we want to change those based on an updated forecast, we can make those adjustments here. Then right below that, we have our high-level budget for the upcoming budget year. So let's say perhaps the directive that we have from the executive level is that we need to increase our new business sales by 40%. We can put that in there. It's going to give us a high level projection of what that number is going to look like. We can do the same thing for add-on sales or any other key areas within the business. And then that's going to give us a final target, a very high level target, which we can then break down later, of what our sales goals are. Now, once we have these goals, we know we need to have the right staffing in place to hit those numbers. So if we go down to this next section, we can see the individual employees that we currently have by month, and we can adjust this if we need to, maybe perhaps for the rest of the year. If we have a new hire slated, we can make that adjustment. And then for 2024, if we know that there's going to be any attrition, we can input that as well. Based on those numbers, then we're going to put in a planned increase for our current FTEs. So let's say everyone's sales goal, their sales quota maybe is going to increase 15% in the upcoming year. We know that we're going to be able to take the current headcount, increase their sales goals by 15%, and then that's going to tell us how much of that sales target we have covered. We also can then, as we start talking about potential new hires, we know that when we hire a new employee, they're not going to be on day one operating at 100%. There's going to be some ramp up time. So what we can do here is put in some of that efficiency during the ramp up. Maybe month one, we expect they're going to be at 5% efficiency. Maybe it's 25%, whatever we think that's going to be, so that we get more realistic projections for those new hires. Once we've done that, we can see right here below, this is the key number to look at. We can see that we have a gap between our current headcount and those sales goals by employee and what we're trying to achieve, the numbers that we're trying to hit as a sales target. So we know we're about 2 million off here. And if we go down to the next section, we can see exactly what that sales gap is and how we can hit those budget numbers. So here we see, okay, well, we're averaging about a 3 headcount shortage for the year. And we can see by month how that sort of increases throughout the year as our revenue ramps up. So what I can then do is I can fill in that gap. So let's say maybe in February, we want to do 4 hires, try to get that going early in the year. This is going to let me know that if I want 4 hires really functioning in February, if I want them onboarding in February, because it takes about 60 days to hire, we need to start that hiring process 2 months ahead. So that needs to happen in December. Maybe we want to add another 4 in April. And now I can see, okay, now that's putting us a little bit above budget. So I can make adjustments here as needed so that we can right size our staffing so that we don't have folks sitting on the bench, but we have exactly the right amount of headcount to achieve our sales goals. And you can see we have a little bit of a summary here, which is telling us in order to reach that sales budget, which is an increase over the current year, we plan to hire 7 new headcount, and it's going to tell us whether we're going to hit that and by how much. Lastly, if we go over here to the left-hand side, we can see what those trends look like. So we can see as we hire those new employees, what that sales gap is as they start to ramp up. And once they come fully on board and they're operating at 100%, then that's going to really kick up our revenue compared to budget. So that's a great example of a very high level budget. We can add in a few more things if we want when it comes to some of the associated services and things like that. But that gives you a good idea of how we can set some of those really high level goals, targets, make sure we have the right team in place, and then we can get even more granular into different things like products and customers, payroll, OpEx, and all of those particular areas. So that is a high-level overview of the solver for a SaaS solution, both when it comes to some of the reporting and analysis, as well as the planning where we can see budgeting and forecasting. So with that, let's recap some of the key benefits that we've seen today with the binary stream subscription billing suite paired with the Solver corporate performance management solution. The first is accurate reporting. So that's going to give you informed decision making through comprehensive financial and operational reporting. You're also going to get adaptive billing and planning. So that's flexibility when it comes to managing recurring billing scenarios and also some of the advanced budgeting and forecasting tools that are specific to the dynamic SaaS industry. You're also going to have visibility into some of your key subscription insights. So you're going to be able to dive deep into your SaaS business's vital metrics for key insights and the ability to do that more granular analysis to see the underlying transactions and what exactly is going on within the business. Also very important is that accurate revenue recognition. So access to advanced deferral templates that track unbilled revenue to ensure GAAP compliance. Cash flow optimization is another big one. So the ability to monitor and forecast cash flow with advanced scenario planning and KPI tracking, where all of some of the pieces that we saw today can really come together into some of the templates provided to optimize how you're spending your cash. Lastly, rapid deployment. So we talked a little bit about that packaged implementation, but swift implementation with quick start setup and over 130 specialized financial and SaaS templates to give you immediate insight into your business as we've seen today. We want to thank everyone for joining us today for this overview with Binary Stream and Solver and our specific solution for the SaaS industry. Thank you so much for being here.